This gameplay video is brought to you by very generous patron Shuffles. Mishra Tamer of Mak Fawa versus Thada Adel, Evelyn, and Geist of Traft. A non-lander, that's a good start. Into really a two-lander. Eco Wellspring could help us. As a Saga into Sol Ring eventually can get Solemn, so we'll risk it. We are on the play here, so get to draw into Cathartic Reunion, which we can't actually play yet. Oh, and I've actually started off with the Swamp. Should have been the Urza's Saga. I just got off a really bad game in which, well, it didn't go well, put it that way. You won't be seeing it, so yeah, my head's obviously not recovered from that one yet. Already making mistakes. Turn 1 Mana Vault from Thada Adel, which takes them into a Dark Steel Ingot. Alright, get ourselves into an Urborg, which I don't think is necessarily going to help my opponents, so we could get that down soon, but it's definitely the Urza's Saga here. So tap that down for mana, play the Eco Wellspring, and we'll go back up to 7 cards in hand. And that is a Hostile Negotiations, so we can start dumping cards in our library, ready to unearth them. Obviously the Urborg goes really well with the Cabal Coffers as well, just struggling on red mana at the moment. Thada gets down a Buried Ruin, so the only means of blue mana he's got is from the Dark Steel Ingot, but the blue player's just holding up mana here, so see if we can get into a mountain. We cannot, that is an Imp's Mischief, so looks like we're not doing much of anything this turn, because I don't particularly want to discard the Solemn or the Gilded Lotus to the Cathartic Reunion, but we can make a Construct token with this at least. Should really have had a Sol Ring in play and been casting the Solemn Simulacrum at that point. Geist of Traft into play. So we'll see if Thada manages to make another source of blue mana here. Obviously needs double blue for the commander. Well, everyone's struggling on mana apparently. We'll go for the Urza's Saga activation at the end of the turn. And then if we drop Cabal Coffers, we'll still be able to get down the Solemn Simulacrum, won't we? Yeah, that's probably an idea actually. So make another Construct token in response to the Urza's Saga trigger. Oh, actually we'll have one less land, won't we? So we won't be able to do the Solemn Simulacrum thing. We'll go for the Sol Ring regardless. So we might as well just hold up the Imp's Mischief at this point and let's start swinging in. I bet the Thada is going to want to swing in at us anyway because he'll be able to take artifacts from a Mishra deck, so we'll swing in that direction. Aqueous Form is Scry 1 whenever it attacks and it can't be blocked. And then it is Ethereal Armour, so starting to get buffs on the commander as well as First Strike, so that jumps up to a 4/4 that can't be blocked. And yep, I assumed as much, that swings in our direction. The Angel goes in at Thada at least. Panharmonicon from Evelyn. Cloud Post into play tapped. So lots of colourless lands, really struggling on blue. Okay, still not getting into a land, so we'll tap down the Cabal Coffers for 3 mana. And we'll just play out the Solemn Simulacrum so that we can actually make land drops. It makes the Cabal Coffers stronger. So finally getting into a red source and swinging 10 points of damage in towards the Geist of Traft player. He started it. Steel of the Godhead now. Can't be blocked and has lifelink, gets +2/+2, so jumps up to a 7/7. First Strike lifelink, can't be blocked and hexproof. And yep, just trying to race us. So we'll go up to 11 points of commander damage. And the Angel swings in at Evelyn. So if they get that up to 10 points of power next turn, then they'll be able to take us out. Evelyn casting Champion of the Dusk, which will only cantrip once. Surprised he's playing that before his commander. Oh, actually it'll cantrip twice thanks to the Panharmonicon. Still should have played the commander first, I think. Well, still no island, a Thespian Stage this time. I think Thada needs to rethink the mana base on this one. Thespian Stage becoming... that can become a copy of any land on the battlefield, I think. Yeah, so they could copy an island with that, but instead deciding to copy the Cloud Post, so those will tap for 2 mana apiece. And we managed to make another land, not a mountain unfortunately, but does make the Cabal Coffers much stronger here, so that'll tap for 5 mana. Which means we can get down the Gilded Lotus. I think we need to be careful to hold up the Imp's Mischief here. Change the target of a spell with a single target. So if they go for a big aura that's going to get rid of us with the Geist of Traft, then we can reassign it. And I'm going to play out the Swiftfoot Boots just so that these are stronger, so we can deal more damage to the Geist of St. Traft player, although they do have lifelink now. So maybe it's best to just hold up Hostile Negotiations and try and get into something relevant. Yeah, we'll hold up Hostile Negotiations and the Imp's Mischief, I think. Okay, he raised the alarm so they can chump block both of those. I don't think I was particularly worried about dealing a bunch of damage to this player anyway, seeing as how they've got that lifelink. Okay, double blocking on one construct for some reason. Must be a misclick, I imagine. A Delving Hand of Control now until your next turn. Prevent all damage that will be dealt to and by a permanent. And obviously that's a stacks piece as well. It's going to make our instants and sorceries cost one more, annoyingly. They have not further buffed the Geist of St. Traft though, so that buys us another turn. And not going in at us anyway, so that's good. The 4/4 Angel swings in at Evelyn, ticking down the Delving, so this won't deal any damage. The 4/4 Vampire swings in at Delving, so that switches both of our instants on. We can go Hostile Negotiations and Imp's Mischief still. Still holding off on casting the Evelyn, passing through the turn with 5 mana held up. Unwinding Clock for Thada. So at the end of the turn it is Hostile Negotiations for us. Alright, so which pile do we want to reveal to our opponent? So we'll put this one face up. Our opponents might be really worried about what's under the other pile, so give us this one. We'll just point that at the Evelyn player. Let them decide what we get here. Yeah, and that worked nicely for us, so Plumb the Forbidden, the Ancient Tomb, and the Nim Deathmantle going into the bin. And we get into a Tainted Peak, so we can actually drop a land this turn, amazingly. So throw out a land, hoping Duretti might distract my opponents. Tap down the Cabal Coffers for 6 mana this time. And we'll go for the Duretti. And we're not really getting into much of anything here. If our opponent does go for Geist of St. Traft or an Angel into the Duretti, an Angel will not kill it if we tick up, so yeah, let's tick up. We can force them to take the Geist of St. Traft in at our commander, or in at our Planeswalker that way. So we'll discard Arcane Signet, and I think we're okay getting rid of the Chainer. We've got Reanimate if we're desperate for it. Okay, gets us into a land and a Wheel of Fortune. We're refilling Geist of St. Traft's hand with a Wheel of Fortune, unfortunately. Yeah, we're not drawing the best cards here. Go for Cathartic Reunion. We'll discard 2 cards and draw 3, so get rid of the Mountain. Swiftfoot Boots. Alright, gets into another land. There is a Flesh Gorger, which would have been nice to discard. And we could have unearthed that as a big 7/5. So let's just go for the prototype on the Flesh Gorger. We can always get it back out with Unearth later. And then we'll end the turn with the Mishra Tamer of Mak Fawa. And we'll just have to hope that we don't lose to the Geist of St. Traft. It looks like he's on top deck mode, so hopefully not. And Geist didn't swing in at us last turn, so we'll go easy with the Construct. Let's swing in at the Grixis player here, deal 7 points of damage. We'll hold back the Solemn Simulacrum, and this Construct isn't dealing damage anyway, thanks to the Doving. So we've drawn into our rummage effects and the stuff that we'd actually want to discard in the wrong order here, really. We're getting into all the interaction control stuff, but none of the reanimation things. Seeing a Field of the Dead from the Azorius player now. Another Doving Barn this time. And how long does this last? Its activated abilities can't be activated. That's until your next turn, so that could go on to the Mishra. I think they're just minus down to gain 2 and draw a card though. Still the Geist is a 7/7. And yeah, making them take the Geist of St. Traft in at our Planeswalker, so saving our life total and the commander damage yet again. 4/4 swings in at Evelyn. Evelyn the Covetous into play here, so yeah, amazed we haven't seen that before now, but it comes into play. See if Thada can actually doing that at the end of the Delving player's turn, by the way, so now begin their own turn. Mystic Remora into play for the Grixis player, now on 8 cards in hand. Looking at the cards in exile, we see a Pristine Talisman and Emry, Lurker of the Lock here. We have a Mountain and Ashnod's Altar in exile, unfortunately. And then it is a Smothering Tithe here. They have Evolving Wilds and Vampire Socialite. I've seen Gifted Aetherborn. So now it's Sol Ring, Battle Mastery, Swamp, Ghostly Flicker, an Island and a Maze of Ith, Polluted Delta and a Jessica's Will from us. So not seeing many artifacts still. Now the 4/4 goes in straight through the Dovin. I mean, luckily we've got a Solemn Simulacrum for this, hopefully, because we don't want them ticking up on our commander with that. Alright, well, amazingly, Thada still managing to play this one out, a Memnarch into play. And yeah, can gain control of a target artifact. Hopefully they don't steal our Gilded Lotus away. Yeah, but they do take our Gilded Lotus. I mean, they have to, really, because they don't have any blue mana. They're going to have to sacrifice a permanent to do it, though. So, sacrificing a Reliquary Tower. And, yeah, they stand to take our Sol Ring from us as well. I was really hoping to start dealing with the Geist of St. Traft player, but now we've got a Memnarch to worry about. Alright, Evelyn doesn't want to lose the Panharmonicon, so went for Rakdos Charm, getting rid of the Unwinding Clock, which potentially buys us a bit of time against Memnarch. Probably a good idea to hold up the Bedevil against it still, though. Alright, and we draw into a mountain, so I think there's not really much point in shocking down the Blood Crypt because we've got Urborg in place. Just throw out the mountain. And then reanimate onto the Chainer, because that's going to be an enabler for us if we decide to go for the Wheel of Fortune. Not too worried about Mystic Remora if we're going to go for Wheel of Fortune. And Chainer entering does give itself haste here. I'm not sure if that's going to be relevant. Let's turn in sideways first of all. We want to probably deal some construct damage to the Azorius player, and then definitely want to get rid of the Dovin also. I'll swing in some Menace Lifelink damage over at the mono blue player here. Chainer's going in at Dovin. Holding back a couple of blockers isn't the worst thing here. We just have to hope that there's no removal on one of our creatures. We'll send Mishra in at the Dovin as well, just in case. We definitely want to see the back of that Planeswalker. Alright, so damage is dealt. We go back up to 25. Let's see how much mana we get from this Cabal Coffers. That is 7 black mana, so yeah. Let's go for the Bedevil onto the Memnarch so that it can't steal any more mana away from us. It's no to Mystic Remora again. And then it'll have to be the Wheel of Fortune here. Again, we don't have much red mana, unfortunately. But hopefully we'll be able to do at least a little bit of something. Okay, a Brainstorm in response, so protecting some of the cards that are in their hand. You don't shuffle before the Wheel of Fortune, so Brainstorm will draw 3 and protect 2 cards on top, ready for them to draw back into with the Wheel of Fortune. Obviously they draw from the Remora again as well. Alright, so refilling everyone's hand, including the Geist of St. Traft player's hand, unfortunately, so might mean that we just go down next turn. Still don't have the Sundial of the Infinite or a means of getting that out. We can discard the Audacious Reshapers and give it haste though. So discard that to the Chainer, and then casting that from the bin with Chainer's ability, we will have haste on that as well, again thanks to Chainer. That just drew a whole heap of lands there, annoyingly. So that as haste, we will sacrifice the Eco Wellspring with it, that will draw us a card. And we'll get into an artifact off the Audacious Reshapers. Draw into a Cursed Mirror, which we can't cast unfortunately. Okay, and that was just a Vault of Whispers. Didn't even get into the red artifact land. Does allow us to cast the Hagra Mauling. I don't think I'm particularly bothered about doing that. So yeah, this is going pretty poorly for us. We will... Buried Ruin might be worth sacrificing. No, nothing really worth grabbing with that. Apart from the Nim Deathmantle. Yeah, we're not doing anything else. Let's grab the Nim Deathmantle back. We might be able to get the Ashnod's Altar has been exiled, but we might be able to grab the, what is it called? Krark-Clan Ironworks. Get rid of Swamp. And if we can get Krark-Clan Ironworks, we make infinite triplicate Titan tokens with the Nim Deathmantle. Ajani's Pridemate. Well, losing the Unwinding Clock and the Memnarch, that's clearly all they were trying to build up there, and once it was removed, they decided to scoop on us. So we'll see if we go down to the Geist of St. Traft here. A Peregrine Drake comes down, untaps 5 lands. We're just 1 land away from starting to trigger the Field of the Dead as well. Then an Elite Guard Mage, gain 3, draw a card. And now a Suspension Field. When it enters the battlefield, exile a target creature with toughness 3 or greater until it leaves the battlefield. And that targets the Evelyn. So he must have seen some things in exile that he doesn't want him to be casting. And then the 8/8 goes at Evelyn. I dare say we will eat the angel token. Yep, swinging in the angel at us, so we go down to 20. So either one of us is now at risk of being one-shot by the Geist of St. Traft. Mystic Remora going into the bin. Oh, and I didn't realise that was the Geist of St. Traft players, Mystic Remora, so it must have been exiled and Evelyn cast it. Now the 4/4 swings in at the Geist of St. Traft player. And the 2/3 Death Toucher with lifelink goes in over there as well. So might be looking for mass reanimation here. Although if that was the case, I'm sure the Evelyn would have gone into the graveyard as opposed to the command zone, which is where it's sat currently. Alright, just passing through the turn, going to discard hand size and probably replaying the Evelyn. I'm not sure how much it costs now. Discarding a land to hand size. We draw into Mycosith Wellspring. So get down the Dragon Skull Summit because we need as much red mana as we can lay our hands on. Tap down Cabal Coffers for 8 mana. And I think we're okay to go for the Eco Wellspring to draw another card, and we can use that on the Audacious Reshapers. So that does enter the battlefield, we draw another card, and it's just a land, so let's recycle that with the Eco Wellspring being sacrificed. It will go into exile, thanks to the Unearth clause, and that just changes into a Rakdos Signet, unfortunately, so not doing too much of anything here. I haven't got any really big bad stuff into the graveyard to reanimate this game. We can go Peregrine Drake with the Cursed Mirror, so we will cast the Cursed Mirror, floating some mana from our lands. Enters as a Peregrine Drake, and we untap 5 lands including the Cabal Coffers and some red mana, so that takes us up to 11 black mana. Might as well discard the Triplicate Titan to the Chainer and then cast Triplicate Titan from the bin. Not doing that with Unearth, so it won't be sacrificed at the end of the turn. Really want to be using the Unearth on these things when we've got Sundial of the Infinite in play, so that we can keep it in play. Chainer gives it haste again. Suppose we might as well have Nim Deathmantle in play as well. Our opponents might see that that's a combo, so argument to be made for keeping it in hand, but we're just going so slow this game that I'm trying to save on as much mana as possible. So I suppose we should go for the Wayfarer's Bauble as well, unearth that, and might as well sacrifice it at the end of the turn. Then we'll still be able to hold up the Hagra Mauling, which I don't think is going to be of all that much use to us, unfortunately. So a couple of 10/10s swinging in at the Geist of St. Traft. Yeah, we'll take the Triplicate Titan in there as well. That is a 9/9 with Flying Vigilance and Trample. And then just for the sake of gaining life, I'll take the Flesh Gorger in over here as well. Even if they do get their commander down, that has Menace, so they can't do anything relevant against that, I don't think. So throwing away the Elite Vanguard against the Triplicate Titan. That does have Trample, so should be using this to block the Construct, really. These Constructs don't have Trample. Anyway, the Peregrine Drake going in the way of the Construct token. So they go down to 21. The life gain from the Geist of St. Traft has really been relevant this game. And we'll sacrifice the Wayfarer's Bauble before we have to sacrifice and exile that to the Unearth clause. Yeah, I was hoping for more from the whole Unearth thing, but we haven't had the best of luck with our draws. Might have to go a little bit more heavy on the big pieces that we can throw into the bin. This is my first game with this deck though, so might have to just test it a bit more. Maybe we were just unlucky here. So Eco Wellspring and Wayfarer's Bauble are already in exile, so not worried about that. They have been useful to us already. And we're just holding up the Hagra Mauling here, which, like I said before, I don't think that's going to be of any relevance. Noteworthy that the Cursed Mirror is now a Cursed Mirror, and we'll tap for red mana. Rhystic Study, we can pay into that, thankfully, thanks to the Cursed Mirror mana. One more enchantment in play and they'll be able to take us out here, because they do get a +1 buff per enchantment thanks to the Ethereal Armour. A Chromatic Lantern, and now a Cerulean Drake. Protection from red, you can sacrifice it to counter a spell that targets you personally. Not worried about that just yet. They're down to 1 card in hand. Okay, might be seeing the back of the Grixis player here. Geist of St. Traft swinging in over there. and they can send the angel in there as well, and I assume that that will be him done, but could be holding up a Cyclonic Rift or something like that. No, sending in the angel at us, so potentially giving the Grixis player another turn here. I think that was 7 mana our opponent just tapped down. Okay, casting the Evelyn. Hopefully should be paying into the Rhystic Study here. Okay, allows him to draw, so we'll see what 1-drop he's desperate to go for here. Might be a Vampiric Tutor. There are enchantments with Flash, but that will still only put him on 18 points of Commander. That was really us it was relevant against. So exiling there, a Plains, a tap land, and a Sandstone Oracle from us, which won't be of any relevance to him. I think we might have to go Hagramorling onto the Evelyn after all this. We'll do it at the end step and see if he goes for a Vamp Tutor. Maybe he's holding up Swan Song or something like that. We do have flying on the Triplicate Titan, so I'm guessing that we can just block the Angel here. So Evelyn goes plummeting down to 1. That does actually switch off the Vampiric Tutor. You take 2 life to Vamp Tutor, so I don't know. Maybe Mystical Tutor, something like that. So we'll see if we get priority during the end step here. Don't want my opponent casting like a Jeska's Will and getting into something crazy or something like that. It seems very eager to have the Evelyn in play. Yeah, I think it's fine for us to go for the Hagramorling here onto it. We're not using it against the Geist player. And we will of course pay into the Rhystic Study, so we are totally tapped out here. Alright, and it was an Essence Flux he was holding up. So the Evelyn coming into play once again drawing cards into the Geist player. So that enters play once again and they get access to more stuff. It is a Helm of the Host this time. That'll actually be quite good in that deck, although I don't have too much mana as a Grixis deck. A Diabolic Tutor, and then we've got in exile a Goblin Welder. We've already seen the Sandstone Oracle, Burnished Heart, and a Sculpting Steel. Oh, they're exiling 2 things, aren't they, thanks to the Panharmonicon. So it's a Temple, Painful Truths, Dusk Legion Zealot, and the Diabolic Tutor. A couple of lands, Chasm Skulker, and a Helm of the Host being exiled over here. So managing to cast the Jeska's Will, we've got 4 cards in hand, so they'll get 4 mana from us. And exiling there, a Captivating Vampire, an Impulse, and Maestro's Charm. Now casting the Impulse and feeding a card into the Rhystic Study player. Yeah, I mean, they get 1 shot by this thing next turn anyway, so I don't suppose they're really worried about how many cards they'll have in hand, but there can always be Dovin's Vetoes and Negates and things like that. Maestro's Charm being cast. Look at the top 5 cards, 1 into your hand, the rest in the bin. And drawing into their 5th card from the Rhystic Study. Seeing in the bin now, there's a Swamp, Cordial Vampire, Reflections of Lityara, and a World Gorger Dragon, so I'm guessing that that is the Animate Dead combo. Rakdos Signet into play, and 6 cards in the Azorius player's hand now. We're going to have to do our best to one-shot them out of the game here, I think. So just swinging in, not swinging in with the Death Toucher for some reason. The 4/4 just going in alone. I would have thought they'd want the life from this if nothing else. So just throwing that away to the Ajani's Pride Mate. 4/4 doesn't bode well against a 5/5. Maybe they've got some kind of reanimation on that, but they lose life to this, so they can't reanimate it. And there's Animate Dead, so going on the World Gorger, and that is an infinite. So our opponent has infinite mana here. Obviously has a bunch of stuff in exile that can be cast, and then 6 cards in hand as well. There's a Diabolic Tutor available, so not sure how they actually win here. They're obviously triggering their commander every time it re-enters the battlefield, so that'll give them even more opportunity to draw cards and do stuff. There's another tutor in the Wishclaw Talisman. Yeah, I played this once on the channel just to show the deck, or show the combo off in that deck, whichever deck it was, but yeah, problem is with these combos on Magic Online is it takes forever. Alright, I've just allowed it to play out and kept the recording going. Went and grabbed something to eat here, and I was thinking about how our opponent could win from here, and completely forgot about the fact that they're exiling cards every single turn. So yeah, I'm just seeing now that they actually exile all the cards in our library, and all our opponent really has to do here is pass the turn through to me, and then pass the turn through to the Azorius player. We each lose to drawing from an empty library, and yeah, that will be him winning the game, but doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon here, so I'll wait and see how he actually wins this one. Might have some kind of fun combo to do outside of the one he's doing currently, so we'll just see what he does out of interest. Alright, so just come back into the room again, and my opponent has ended up with hardly any permanents in play, but we are about to draw from an empty library, and the Azorius player will do the same thing in a second. Alright, so there we go. The Evelyn player wins this one with a combo. Obviously could have been taken out by the Angel token, but for whatever reason the Geist of St. Traft player decided not to take this player out and give him another turn. Pretty clunky game for us. The Mishra deck, yeah, it didn't perform incredibly well. It didn't do terribly, but we just didn't make the correct draws and get into the good stuff that we could rummage away. We've got 24 artifacts in this deck. That excludes creatures, so we've got artifact creatures in there, of course. So we've probably got north of 30, maybe around 35 artifacts in the deck in total, and yeah, just didn't see many of them, unfortunately. Not many big scary ones that were relevant anyway, so we'll try the deck again if this video does particularly well, and if you all let me know that you want to see more from this deck, I think I'll try it again and see if we can give it a better showing. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.